What happens when a CEO goes undercover in his own hotel and witnesses a guest scream at a front desk clerk while the manager watches and does nothing? Brandon Pierce was tired of excuses. The hotel business his father built from a single roadside and had grown into a chain of 19 locations across the Midwest. Brandon had inherited it 5 years ago. But lately, complaints were piling up. Not just about rooms or pricing, those were typical. These were about service. Cold welcomes. Poor attitude. Front desk staff who seemed overworked, undertrained, or just didn't care. He'd read one too many emails from his district managers assuring him it's being handled. So Brandon decided to handle it himself. He picked one of their busiest locations just outside St. Louis. A mid-tier hotel that was constantly booked for business travelers and weekend getaways. The guest reviews were split. Some praised the staff. Others said it felt like no one wanted to be there. Perfect place to dig in. Brandon had never met the staff at that location. Most hires were done by the site manager or HR. And since it was a corporate-style chain, no one expected to see the owner walking around, especially not dressed in khakis, an oversized green polo, glasses, and a buzz-cut wig. The ID badge said Ben Palmer, a new trainee sent in from corporate to learn the ropes. No one questioned it. The lobby was busy when he arrived. 2 weddings that weekend. A conference. A team of exhausted airline crew checking in. "You Ben?" a woman asked, walking briskly toward him. She was tall, early 40s, with sharp eyes and a Bluetooth earpiece jammed in one ear. "Yeah," Brandon said. "Just got in." "I manage the circus," she said, handing him a laminated schedule. "You're on reception shadow today. Pay attention, don't get in the way, and don't touch the booking system. It's glitchy." Brandon nodded. Got it. He was paired with a young front desk clerk named Wesley. Barely 20, clean-cut with nervous energy. He wore a too-big blazer and kept adjusting his tie. "First day?" Wesley asked, offering a fist bump.
"Yeah."
"You. 3rd month. Still feels like the first, though." The shift started off steady. Guests checking in, keycards being handed out, the usual complaints: TV remotes missing, towels not replaced. Brandon stayed quiet, watching how Wesley handled it all. The kid was patient, always smiled. He repeated things twice if guests didn't catch something. When an older couple asked for a room closer to the elevator, he called housekeeping himself to make sure it'd be ready in 10 minutes. "You're good at this," Brandon said during a lull. Wesley shrugged. "Just trying not to screw up." Around noon, a woman in a designer coat stormed up to the desk, dragging a suitcase and a screaming toddler behind her. "I need a different room," she barked. "This one smells like mold, and the bed is rock hard." Wesley clicked into the system. "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. Let me see what I can do." "I don't want an apology," she snapped. "I want a room that doesn't smell like a BS," the toddler shrieked again. Brandon stepped slightly back. Wesley stayed calm. "I've got one on the 3rd floor. I said I want one now. Not a maybe, not a wait.
Now."
Brandon looked around. Dana, the manager, was at the other end of the counter, watching silently. Wesley tried again. "Ma'am, I'm offering you a room that's ready. Are you stupid?" the woman shouted. "Can you even speak English properly? This is the worst place I've ever stayed, and they put you behind the counter?" Brandon's jaw tightened. He looked at Dana. Still nothing. Wesley's face flushed red, but he didn't lash out. "I'm doing my best to help you, ma'am. If you'd let me show you the— Don't you dare talk back to me," she yelled, pounding her fist against the counter. "I want a manager now." Dana finally walked over. Brandon waited. "Everything okay here?" Dana asked, tone flat. "No urgency. This boy is useless," the guest snarled. "Get me someone who knows what they're doing." Dana looked at Wesley, then back at the woman. "Ma'am, we'll find you another room. Please calm down." That was it. No defense of Wesley. No rebuke. Just please calm down. The woman glared at Wesley one last time, grabbed her suitcase, and stormed off with Dana following behind. Wesley stood frozen, shoulders stiff, eyes glassy. Brandon stepped closer. "You all right?" "Yeah," Wesley mumbled. "Happens more often than you'd think." Brandon clenched his fists behind the counter. Something was seriously wrong here. Not just with the guests, the management. The message Dana had sent was loud. Front desk clerks were on their own. And the worst part? Everyone in the lobby had watched it happen. And no one said a word. The next morning, Brandon arrived 15 minutes early. The lobby was quiet, the smell of overbrewed coffee lingering near the complimentary station. No music played. A cleaning cart stood abandoned near the elevators, mop water still in the bucket. Wesley arrived shortly after, rubbing his neck and nodding a tired hello. His blazer was still oversized, but his shirt was freshly ironed. He didn't say much as he logged into the system. Brandon waited until they were alone behind the counter. "Rough night." Wesley hesitated. "Stayed late yesterday. Had to cover night audit." Jason called out. "Jason." "Other front desk guy. He's been calling out a lot." Brandon leaned against the counter. "So, it was just you?" Wesley nodded.
Yeah.
"Me, and the security guy. He's not really supposed to help with check-ins, though." Brandon kept his tone light. "Is that normal?" Wesley didn't answer right away. "It's not supposed to be." Brandon scanned the lobby. No sign of Dana yet. A few guests were trickling down from their rooms, one with a suitcase, another in joggers and hotel slippers. Brandon noticed a blinking light on one of the phones. A voicemail indicator. Wesley caught him looking. "That's been blinking all week. Dana doesn't check it." Brandon picked up the receiver, typed in the code Wesley pointed to, and listened. A woman's voice came through, shaky, quiet. She was calling about a lost necklace from her stay. She'd left 2 messages. No one had called back. Wesley stared straight ahead. "Why doesn't anyone return these?" Brandon asked. Wesley shrugged. "Dana says if it's not a legal issue or a current guest, it can wait." Brandon set the phone down. By mid-morning, the lobby picked up. A minor plumbing issue on the 4th floor sent 3 guests down to complain. Wesley handled them one by one, apologizing, offering to call maintenance, checking for available rooms. Brandon offered to run keys upstairs to save time. When he returned, Dana was finally at the counter, going over a clipboard. Her expression didn't change when Brandon approached. "Elevator panels loose again," she muttered. "Sent in a request last month. Still nothing." Brandon glanced at her. "Do you usually handle maintenance requests?" "When corporate ignores the GM tickets, yeah." "Why not call escalations?"
Dana sighed.
"We're not one of the flagship properties. We wait longer." Brandon didn't respond right away. Instead, he asked, "You got a minute?" Dana looked up, irritated but curious. "What for?" "Just wondering how long the front desk's been operating short." She narrowed her eyes. "Why?" Wesley said he was alone last night. "That's not really safe." Dana leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "We've been down 2 staff since March.
If I requested replacements.
HR says they're working on it. Until then, we make it work. It's not ideal, but people here know how to hustle." Brandon kept his tone even. "And Jason?" "Jason's a wild card. Shows up when he feels like it. But he's good with angry guests, so I keep him on." Brandon nodded slowly. "And Wesley?"
Soft.
"Too polite. He'll burn out." Brandon felt a sharp edge behind his ribs. Or maybe he's just not being supported. Dana didn't flinch. "He's lucky to be here. Most kids his age wouldn't last a week." She walked off before he could answer. By noon, Jason showed up. Tall, mid-30s, wearing a rumpled shirt and sunglasses pushed up on his head. He strolled behind the counter with a grin and 2 coffees. "Sorry I'm late." Alarm didn't go off. Wesley didn't say anything. Brandon watched Dana wave him in without a word. Jason handed one coffee to Dana, took a sip from his own, and leaned on the counter. Anything fun happen yet? Wesley spoke without turning. Guest screamed at me yesterday. You missed it. Jason laughed. Welcome to hospitality, kid. Brandon watched as Jason logged in, then immediately pulled out his phone and started scrolling. Wesley was fielding 4 guests at once. Jason didn't move. Brandon stepped beside him. Can you help room 612? Locks jamming. Jason didn't look up. Tell maintenance. They're backed up. Then tell the guest to wait. It's not our job to fix doors. Brandon didn't move. It is your job to keep the guest from leaving a bad review. Jason finally looked at him. Who are you again? Trainee.
Ben.
Jason snorted. Figures. Brandon walked away before he said something he'd regret. Later that afternoon, a woman with a cane approached the desk. She was in her 70s, wearing a cardigan despite the heat. She asked for help bringing her bags downstairs. Wesley started to offer, but Jason cut in. No bellhop today, sorry, he said, not even looking up from his phone. Brandon stepped forward. I'll grab them. The woman smiled, grateful. Thank you, dear. I have arthritis. Upstairs, her room was near the end of the hall. 2 heavy suitcases sat by the door. You shouldn't be lifting these, Brandon said. She gave a weary laugh. I asked for help this morning. The girl cleaning the hallway said she'd tell the front desk. No one came. Brandon didn't answer. He just took the bags and led her to the elevator. When they reached the lobby, Jason was still on his phone. Wesley was checking in a family of 5. Dana was nowhere in sight. Brandon helped the woman into a cab and stood on the sidewalk for a moment, watching the front desk from outside. Inside, the cracks were becoming chasms. He came back in and found Wesley in the back office, taking a short break. His tie was loose, shirt untucked. You ever think about quitting? Brandon asked. Wesley didn't look surprised.
Yeah.
What stops you? My mom. She's sick. I need the insurance. Brandon sat across from him. Does Dana know that? I try not to talk to her unless I have to. Brandon nodded. Jason always like this? Worse when you're not around. He takes smoke breaks every hour. Sometimes he plays poker on his laptop. If anyone complains, Dana says he's just blowing off steam. Brandon leaned back. What about the housekeepers? How are they holding up? Wesley hesitated. One of them, Rosa, cried last week. She got yelled at by a guest and then had to clean 12 rooms alone. Her partner called in sick. Did Dana step in?
No.
She told Rosa to toughen up. Brandon stood. Thanks for telling me. Wesley looked up. Are you actually from corporate? Brandon paused. I'm something like that. He walked out of the office and headed to the service hallway. He found Rosa near the linen closet, folding towels. Mid-50s, small frame, dark circles under her eyes. Hey, he said gently. You got a second? She looked startled. I'm not on break yet. It's okay. I just wanted to ask how things are going. She glanced around. We're understaffed. Always. I come early just to catch up. Do you get paid for the extra time? She shook her head. No one logs it. If I don't finish, Dana says I'm slowing the team. Brandon noticed her hands were red and cracked. You have gloves? They rip. We don't get new ones often. He felt something in his stomach twist. Would you stay if things improved? She blinked. I've worked here 6 years. I'm not looking to leave. Just want respect. Brandon nodded, then quietly walked back toward the front desk. The lobby buzzed with more guests. Jason was on another break. Wesley was helping a man in a wheelchair find an accessible room. Dana was nowhere. Brandon stood behind the counter, watching the scene unfold. People walked in and out, ignored or mishandled.
Vonnisrang unansweret.
Staff moved like they were underwater. Leadership was absent. The people who cared were exhausted. The ones who didn't were unchecked. And the worst part? No one in charge seemed to notice.
Or care.
He took off his badge, tucked it into his pocket, and made a call. Get HR, facilities, and legal on a call for tomorrow. We're doing a full review of the St. Louis property. I'll explain everything then. He hung up before they could ask questions. He wasn't finished yet. Brandon didn't sleep that night. He sat in his room above the lobby, staring at the ceiling fan as it creaked in slow, uneven circles. His laptop sat open on the table beside him, filled with flagged emails he'd ignored for too long, guest complaints, staff resignations, and quiet warnings from regional leaders who hadn't pushed hard enough. They all pointed to the same truth. Somewhere along the way, the culture had eroded. Not by accident, but by inaction. And it had happened under his watch. By 7 the next morning, Brandon had already walked the perimeter of the building, checked the maintenance logs, and reviewed the surveillance footage from the previous night. What he saw confirmed everything. Jason had taken 4 breaks, totaling over an hour and a half. Wesley hadn't left the desk once. Dana hadn't stepped into the lobby after 5. At 9, he returned to the front desk dressed in his usual tailored navy suit, the fake badge and wig long gone. The automatic doors opened and closed behind him as guests moved through the lobby. Wesley was at the desk, tapping slowly at the keyboard, eyes focused but tired. He looked up and froze. Brandon approached calmly. Morning. Wesley blinked. You're the owner. Brandon nodded. Brandon Pierce. Sorry for the deception. Wesley took a step back from the counter, unsure if he should speak. His voice dropped. Did I say something wrong? You said the truth, Brandon said. And you've been doing more than your job. That's the problem. Jason arrived 5 minutes later, sunglasses still on, earbuds in. He pulled one out as he saw Brandon by the counter, confusion flickering across his face.
Who's this?
Brandon turned. You must be Jason. I'm Brandon Pierce. I own this company. Jason's mouth opened slightly.
Right.
Good to meet you. You're scheduled to be working now, Brandon said, glancing at the time. Why are you late again? Jason gave a half shrug. Traffic. You live 8 minutes away. I checked. Jason looked toward Wesley, then back. Look, I didn't realize corporate was coming down. If I had known, you'd have shown up on time? Done your job? That's not how this works. Brandon's tone never rose, but it didn't need to. You've been taking advantage of this place and the people in it. You're done here. Jason's jaw tensed. Come on, you can't just, you're fired. Effective immediately. Head to the back office, and someone will escort you out. Wesley stood completely still as Jason left, muttering under his breath. Brandon turned to him. We'll talk more soon. For now, you're not alone anymore. Dana entered 15 minutes later, clipboard in hand, earbuds in. She looked up, confused by the presence of a suited man behind the counter. Then recognition hit. Mr. Pierce? Brandon didn't wait.
We need to speak. Now.
She followed him to the office behind the front desk. The door clicked shut. I've spent the last 48 hours seeing firsthand how this property is run, Brandon began. And I'm not impressed.
Danes mouth tightened.
It's not easy managing this location. We've been understaffed, underfunded. I know exactly how many positions are budgeted. You've had approval to hire 2 front desk clerks and a night supervisor since March. Not one posting has gone live. Dana hesitated. I haven't had qualified applicants. You haven't posted the openings, Brandon said flatly. You've been running lean and letting others carry the weight. She crossed her arms. We've been meeting our numbers. That's what matters, right? Not anymore. You ignored harassment. You let an employee be publicly humiliated and did nothing. You failed to protect your staff and your guests. You're not leading, you're hiding. Dana's expression hardened. I've been here 8 years. I've worked through floods, broken HVAC systems, and corporate delays. You think you can walk in and understand this place in 2 days? I didn't ask for perfect. Asked for integrity, Brandon said. And I saw none. Dana paused, then said flatly, "If you're taking me out, you'd better have someone ready to replace me." "I do," he said. "Effective immediately. You're relieved of your duties. HR will follow up for your final paperwork." Dana stared at him, stunned. "You're serious?" "I'm done letting this culture slide," Brandon said. "You can go now." She left without another word. By 10:30, Brandon had gathered the full staff front desk, housekeeping, and 2 kitchen workers into the small meeting room just off the lobby. The air was tense. Some stood. Others sat with arms crossed, uncertain what to expect. Brandon stood at the front, sleeves rolled slightly, no tie. "I know you've been left in the dark," he began. "I'm here to fix that." No one spoke. "I've spent the past 2 days working alongside you, watching how some of you give more than you should, while others give nothing at all. That ends now." A few eyes darted around the room. "Dana and Jason are no longer with us," Brandon continued. "I made that decision because leadership isn't a title, it's responsibility. And they failed you." Wesley sat near the back, hands clasped in his lap, listening intently. Rosa stood near the door, still in her uniform, eyes wary. "I'm not here to sugarcoat things. This location has been neglected, but that's on me. I trusted the wrong people. I stopped looking closely. That changes starting today." He turned to Rosa. "You shouldn't be cleaning 12 rooms alone. That's not sustainable, and it's not acceptable." Her eyes widened slightly. She nodded once. Brandon looked at the rest. "We're hiring immediately. 2 front desk clerks, 3 housekeeping staff, and 1 night supervisor. Until then, I'll be here, working alongside you." A kitchen worker raised a hand. "What about supplies? We've been short on basics for weeks." "I've already spoken with procurement. A delivery is coming tomorrow morning. Gloves, linens, cleaning chemicals, all of it." Another voice spoke up. "What about overtime that's not been logged? Anyone who worked extra hours without compensation reported to HR. We'll review every case." The room was silent for a moment. Then Wesley stood. "Can I say something?" Brandon nodded. Wesley looked around. "I didn't know who he was when he showed up, but he listened. And he helped. That's more leadership than I've seen since I started here." Brandon met his eyes. "Thank you." He turned back to the group. "This isn't a one-time fix. I'll be back every quarter, unannounced. If you see something wrong, speak up. If you need something, ask. And if someone is making your job harder by refusing to do theirs, tell me." He paused. "This place only works if we respect each other. No one here is disposable. Not anymore." For the first time, someone clapped. Then another. Quiet at first, then steady. The mood shifted not to celebration, but to something else. Relief. After the meeting, Brandon found Wesley in the hallway. "You ever considered being a supervisor?" Wesley blinked. "Me? You've got the instincts. And the patience. You'd be good at it." Wesley hesitated. "I don't know. I've never led anyone." Brandon smiled slightly. "You already have." He left him to think about it and walked toward the loading dock, where 2 housekeepers were organizing carts. He rolled up his sleeves and started helping. There was still too much to fix. But now, at least, the right people were being heard. By the following Monday, the lobby had a different rhythm. It wasn't quieter, there were still guests checking in, printers jamming, and a toddler dragging a juice-stained stuffed bear across the tile. But the tension had shifted. Instead of the cautious stillness Brandon had felt before, people were moving with purpose. Staff spoke just enough to get things done, but there was no more looking over shoulders. Brandon hadn't left. He'd stayed through the weekend, rotating between departments, folding sheets and laundry, running extra towels to the fourth floor, even covering phones during a rush. He didn't announce himself anymore. He just showed up and did what was needed. That morning, he met Wesley in the break room with a fresh copy of the updated shift schedule. 4 new hires were starting over the next 2 weeks, 2 for front desk, 2 for housekeeping. HR had moved quickly once they understood how far things had slipped. Brandon set the paper down on the table between them. You're listed as shift supervisor starting next Thursday. Wesley stared at the page, then looked up. I'm not sure I'm ready. You're not supposed to be sure. You just have to care. He folded the schedule and handed it to him. You can take the role for 3 weeks. If it's not right, we'll reevaluate. Fair. Wesley nodded slowly. Fair. Brandon left him to finish his coffee and walked toward the back office. 2 HR reps had arrived to conduct staff interviews. Not disciplinary, just to listen. One was speaking with Rosa when Brandon passed. She didn't look tired today. She looked focused. Later that afternoon, he found the maintenance tech, Josh, up on a ladder near the hallway vending machines. The elevator panel issue had finally been fixed, but now the emergency light above room 214 was flickering. Josh had a tool belt slung over his shoulder and a pencil tucked behind one ear. You always handle electrical too? Brandon asked, looking up. Josh kept working. Used to be 2 of us. Other guy got transferred last year. They didn't backfill. HR's finding someone? Josh nodded without looking down. That's what they said. Just hoping they don't send another guy who doesn't know the difference between a breaker and the bulb. Brandon laughed once, then pointed toward the storage hallway. We've got a shipment coming in this week. Anything you need added? Josh thought for a second. Wire spools. And gloves that don't rip.
Done.
Josh climbed down and wiped his hands on a rag. You staying long? Not much longer. Just until things are steady. Josh nodded once.
Good.
People are starting to believe it. At 6 that evening, Brandon sat behind the front desk again, watching Wesley check in a family from Kansas City. The father was juggling 2 room keys and a toddler who kept trying to climb onto the counter. Wesley crouched slightly, made a quick joke about secret elevator buttons, and handed over a coloring book from a drawer beneath the counter. The kid lit up. The parents thanked him and headed off. Brandon watched the small moment play out, then turned as Rosa walked across the lobby, fresh linens in hand. She paused briefly at the desk. Wesley, I put extra towels in room 306. They had a baby with them. Thanks, Rosa. She gave a quick nod and moved on. Brandon leaned in. You 2 always communicate that well? Wesley smiled. We didn't used to. Feels easier now. Brandon tapped the desk once. It's because no one's bracing for fallout anymore. He stood and stretched. I'm leaving in the morning. You'll be the ranking lead until the new GM arrives. Wesley stiffened. You sure I'm the right one for that? You're not the perfect one. That person doesn't exist. You're the consistent one. That's better. Wesley looked down at the desk, then said quietly, I didn't think anyone noticed. That's the problem I came here to fix. Brandon stepped into the back hallway and stopped by the operations office. The new GM, a veteran from one of the top-performing Arizona locations, would arrive in 6 days. She'd already sent over a tentative staff development plan, and Brandon had approved it without edits. He'd also arranged for quarterly anonymous staff surveys, handled directly by corporate no filter, no delay. Outside, the sun was setting behind the parking lot, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. A couple stood near the bench, waiting for a rideshare. The woman looked up at the sign above the entrance. Her voice carried just enough for Brandon to hear. This one seems nicer than the last place. He didn't say anything, just leaned against the doorframe for a moment, watching. Wesley came up behind him, tie slightly crooked, holding a bottle of water. I think the vending machine finally gave up, he said. Brandon took the water. We'll replace it. or knock it into a river. Wesley laughed softly. Brandon turned to him. Listen, if you ever see this place slipping again, if someone's being mistreated, ignored, or pushed aside, you don't wait for someone like me to show up. Wesley nodded. I won't. You go straight to the top. And if the top doesn't listen, you go higher. Wesley hesitated. And if the top is the problem? Brandon looked him in the eye. Then you replace the top. They stood in silence for a beat. No noise except the hum of the air vents and the low clink of dishes from the kitchen behind the wall. Then Brandon offered a hand. Wesley shook it. You've got this, Brandon said. The next morning, Brandon checked out just after 6. No fanfare.
No good, biz.
He left a note on the front desk for the team, folded under a pen. It read, keep your eyes open, keep your standards high, and take care of each other, because no title will ever matter more than that. 2 weeks later, Brandon received an email from the new GM. The subject line was short, update. She included a bullet point progress report, staffing complete, performance scores up, guest reviews trending positive. But it was the last line that mattered most. Wesley has taken to the supervisor role better than anyone expected. He's mentoring one of the new hires already. Brandon closed the email and leaned back in his chair. There were 18 other properties. He'd be visiting them all,